Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's session of Ask the Expert. Tonight, we are going to be showing you a litigation lawyer who's going to be joining us, a really special guest. And just a bit of a background for anyone who's interested in law or becoming a lawyer. Litigation lawyers represent claimants and defendants in civil lawsuits. They manage all stages of the litigation, from investigation, pleadings, discovery through pretrial, trial, settlement, and appeal processes. That may or may not mean something to you already, but hopefully by the end of the session, you're going to know a little bit more about what some of those things mean. So I'd like to welcome Zainab, who's joining us tonight. Hello, Zainab.
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much for the invite.
That's all right. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing all right, considering the unfortunate weather we've been having this week. It's been okay.
Been crazy.
Yeah, a bit mad, but it is Britain, so there you go.
Yeah, we signed up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot for joining us. And do you want to just give us a bit of an overview of, I suppose, what it is you do in your day-to-day work?
Sure. It's literally what you said. You hit the nail on the head. So we take clients on sometimes from the very start. So they may feel that they've got a case or something's happened to them and they're seeking some legal advice, or we might have clients who have already started the process of either a claim or defending the claim, and they come to us halfway through the process, sometimes towards the end. But if I was to just pick a random day, sometimes we'll get a phone call to say, I've been served with papers from somebody I owe money to and I need assistance. So we'd ask for them to send us everything. Once they've sent it to us, we'd anticipate how long it's going to take us to review and give them the advice. We then quote them. If that person's then happy to instruct us, we go through the motions of doing the file opening process, because we can't act for someone unless they instruct us formally, which basically means we have to obtain their ID documents. We have to do conflict of interest checks, which we can always touch upon a bit later on. Money laundering checks have to be done on the person that wishes for us to represent them. And then if we do become their lawyers, if they do instruct us, depending upon what it is they want from us, we can either review their situation and give them advice, or we can start the litigation process for them. So if they've been served with papers and they need a defense drafting, so we can draft the defense, we file it with the courts, or we can just advise them on what their possibilities are for them to have a defense. Starting from defending someone or being their solicitor, if they are the claimants, there's loads of different stages to go through, and there are 3 different values in the courts. So you have something called small claims, which is anything under £10,000, and then anything above 10,000 to 25 is then allocated to the multi-track, and then anything over that is the fast track. And each of those courts have different processes. So for example, if someone's got a claim valued at under £10,000 and it's in the civil courts, you might not have to do the disclosure process. The judge decides whether or not, and disclosure is giving the other side an opportunity to assess what documents you have in your possession. So you have to literally give them everything and they have to give you everything. So there's different things, but that's the litigation side of it. I also do employment, and I do commercial and corporate areas as well. And employment is, I can sometimes act for the employer, or I can act for the employee. So let's say if an employee wants to bring a sexual harassment claim, a discrimination claim, I'll act for them. Or equally, the employer, they might need to be defending themselves if they've fired somebody. So we'll, defend them on that one. And in terms of the corporate and commercial, there's a crossover with litigation on that. So sometimes we get businesses who are up against other businesses, or might be up against a lay person, or we might have a business who comes to us and wants advice on drafting contracts. So it's quite varied. No 2 days are the same for me. But if people are expecting that my life here in Leicester, in our law firm, is a bit like Suits, then I would probably be disappointing them, because nothing like Suits. Although there will be the odd occasion where we've got a smoking gun and, you're sitting there in the evening and you're just smiling to yourself because you know that you've got that, nail that will end up in the coffin. So there are some days, but it's certainly nothing like Suits for me anyway.
That's so funny you said that, because before speaking to you, I was thinking, I wonder if I could ask something about that, because I watched that program and I was like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to be,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that guy and ask whether it's like that, because I'm sure it's not. So I'm glad you've said it, not me.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many students say, "Oh, I want to become a lawyer because I've seen Suits." Fantastic, if that's what you want to be. But I would probably say that they are mostly down in, in London. There are some firms out there where you've got your 4, 5 o'clock a.m. starts. They'll have the shower facilities and the breakfast facilities there because they expect you to be there all day. You'll have a locker to put your clothes and everything inside there. So you might have that kind of an environment somewhere in London. But our firm here in Leicester, nothing like that at all. Absolutely not. And I'm grateful for that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into a bit about what your day-to-day kind of life is like in terms of the job. You covered a lot of different areas there. So, you've talked about different types of court that you're involved with. Do you have a particular area that you specialize in, or how did you decide to kind of go in the direction that you're in now?
Okay. Well, I do general litigation, which not many solicitors can do or will do, is want of a better word. So when I say I do general litigation, it's whatever comes my way that day. So it can range from employment matters to commercial matters to debt recovery or boundary disputes, anything that requires dispute resolution. And it's not always about going to court. What I always say to my clients is court should always be the last resolution. And certainly with the way the civil procedure rules have governed the way we take cases to court, they do want you to try and resolve the matter before it even hits court. So there's pre-action steps to take. In terms of how did I get into this area, I think what's really key for students and people listening in to understand is I come from a very non-traditional background when it comes to law. I'm a career changer quite late in life. So I have average grade or mediocre A levels. I've only got a C and a D in 2 A levels. I've got no undergraduate's degree. By the time I was 18, I was a mother of 3 kids. And then, because I had twins, I'd buy one, get one free. I had my own bog off deal. And then by the time I finished college, because I didn't have enough UCAS points, I couldn't go to university. So I ended up working part-time in a manufacturing company, built myself up there and my career. Within 3 years, ended up owning the business, and then just kind of carried on with that role until about 8, 9 years later. I'd qualified as an immigration advisor during this process and had my own immigration firm. And then somebody told me about the GDL, which is the Graduate Diploma in Laws. It's a postgrad degree. It's quite intense. It's literally your 3 years worth of an undergrad crammed into 9 months. And, I laughed that person off. I was like, nah, I'm 20 something years old. I don't want to go to university. By now, my daughter, who was about 18 months old, she was the youngest. But I went anyway. I did the GDL. I did the legal practice course, which is the professional qualification course that you need before you can do the next stage, which is a training contract to get to qualifying. And because whilst I had been working in my own business, because it was such a small business, I was the one-man band show. I was the manager, the supervisor, I was the personnel, the HR. I did everything there. So I was doing immigration, I was doing employment, I was doing business stuff. So for me, just carrying on with that situation fit in really well with my life. So after I finished university, unfortunately, I didn't get a training contract straight away because no law firm would touch me with the fact that I didn't have that undergraduate's degree. Things are changing now. I am talking 10 years ago because I finished my LPC in 2012. So it is a while ago. And I literally gave up because I was going through a separation, a divorce. I had children to feed, a mortgage to pay off. I couldn't, sit at home and wait for training contracts to fall into my lap. So I started all over again, started working in admin for Leicester City Council in their childcare team, and then moved my way up to antisocial behaviour unit and then social workers team. So again, it was different areas and it was whatever hat came my way. But then 6 years later, eventually, when I did get a training contract, the firm I got a training contract with didn't have a litigation department, didn't have an immigration department. So what the partners decided to do, in order to take me on as a trainee, they decided to get themselves trained up in those areas, get themselves a certificate so that they can adequately supervise me, because I needed supervision in order to meet the requirements of the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And when all of that had taken place, I was then given my training contract. So again, there it was whatever came my way, immigration, litigation. So I was never backed into a corner to specialize in one area. And that's just fit in really well with my attitude and my lifestyle, really.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's a really good example for people, because, you know, it's maybe not what people would envisage when it comes to a traditional route. You know, people thinking, okay, I know that I want to become a lawyer, I'm going to go down this route. It kind of proves to people that you can, there are other ways of doing it, you know. And particularly one of the things we wanted to talk about is about the need to go to university. So you kind of touched on that there. So what's your opinion, obviously, now looking back on it? Do you feel like it's a prerequisite for people to go and get their undergrads, or would you recommend doing things, you know, post-grad like you did?
Well, given the current route into law at the moment as it stands right now, the prerequisite to go into law, traditionally, law firms still like for you to have that law degree, whether it's an undergraduate or postgraduate. But there are lots of different alternative routes, and I'll touch upon them very quickly because they have got a lot of different criteria. It's too much for us to pack into this session. But there's one. So the traditional route is your undergraduate's degree, and then you've got the legal practice course, and then you walk into a training contract. The other routes are you do an undergraduate's degree in any disciple, so you could do it under English or, you know, history, whatever other subject you want to do, and then you do the postgraduate law, which is the GDL, graduate diploma in law, and then you do the LPC. Whichever route you take, you still have to do the LPC as it stands right now. There is another route called CILEX, which is Chartered Institute of Legal Executive, CILEX. And what that basically is, you go to university part-time and you work full-time, but the course that you're doing is not like an undergraduate's degree in law. You are doing lots of different subjects, and at the end, the certification that you get is the CILEX award, and you do not need the LPC in order to get a training contract, because you will not do the training contract, you will do the CILEX route, and at the end of it, when you get your certification, you're known as a legal executive, and then you'll be a Chartered Institute legal executive. I've summarized that really quickly because there's a lot. But if people did the LPC and then did the CILEX route, they get time shaven off that route in order for them to work towards their end goal. I know one or two people who have taken the CILEX route, did the LPC, and have become fellows, so FCIELEX, and then they've actually gone and applied to the SRA after a number of years working in a firm and qualified as a solicitor there. So they never needed a training contract. So that's an alternative route. And there's a new SQE route coming in. It's going to hit the market in 6 months' time, which is known as Solicitors Qualifying Examinations. Now that route will take up the need for the traditional law degree. You will not need a law degree. You can have a degree in any area. And then when you do the SQE, you will sit 2 exams. And then you will have to, and 2 exams, when I say 2 exams, 2 stages filled with a number of different exams. So it's not 2 exams, I apologize about that. 2 stages, SQE1, SQE2, and different number of exams for each one. And at the end of that, once you've done those exams and passed them, you can then work for 2 years in any law firm, meeting the qualifying criteria that the SRA have set. And at the end of it, if you get signed off, you can qualify as a solicitor. Now, that SQE is quite key. And the reason why I say that is because this is Leicester College. So, you know, you've got A-level students, you've got BTEC level students, and it's not at a degree level. So by the time the students leaving Leicester College decide to go to university, the SQE will be up and running. But it's still an unknown stage. We don't know whether or not law firms are going to accept people who have done the SQE exams and have not done the traditional route, because a lot of firms have different opinions. And the best example I can give you is London right now. a lot of the magic circle law firms, and magic circle meaning the commercial law firms that we see, similar to Suits, they have embraced the SQE and have actually changed their recruitment process to allow their students, those people that they take on, to do the SQE, and they fund it, etc. Whereas some law firms here in Leicester do not feel the SQE is actually going to bring about a decent horde of lawyers, because you have to have certain qualities, and they feel that a rigorous training program has been taken away from the SQE and might not be suited. So different areas in the UK are having a different opinion. So what I will say to the students right now, there's loads of different routes. There's also something called solicitor apprenticeship route, which I do not know enough about. But if they got in touch with the SRA, they'd be able to find out a lot of information about that. And that might be suited to somebody who doesn't want to go to university. There are a lot of different routes. And I would say do your research before deciding.
Definitely. And just to echo that as well, obviously there's a number of courses available at Leicester College that we offer for anyone who wants to pursue a career in law. You can access these through this link, which I'm going to drop in the comments as well. And also, if you need advice, because like you said there, Zainab, it can be quite difficult to navigate, and there's a lot of options for different people depending on your preferences or your situation. You can also talk to our career service at this link as well, and they're really good at helping you look at the landscape and look at resources available to you, find out what's best for you. So just moving on a little bit away from the academic sort of preparations to become a lawyer, you touched on some of the other skills that are needed to become a lawyer. So what, in your opinion, are the most important skills that people need to do well in this industry?
I'm glad you asked that question. And the reason being, Nick, is because, and some people may disagree with me on this one, I don't believe that there are a separate group of skills that are more important than others. Yes, there are some skills that you will be using more than other skills, but I believe that every set of skill that you have in any other role or any other subject that you've been using in are as important as just the other ones. For example, one of the key aspects of a solicitor's job is to, first of all, we are an officer of the senior courts of England and Wales. Our first duty is to the courts. And at the same time, there's a crossover. We have to act in the best interest of our clients. So there you've got integrity. You got to uphold the rule of law. And something I always say to my children is, how can I allow you to do something that's not allowed? Not that they do anything. Let me put that disclaimer out there. But let's just say, when we're having conversation, how can I allow them to do that when I, as a solicitor, advising my clients to uphold the rule of law? So integrity comes into it. There are elements of honesty. And when I say honesty, there's a perception out there that lawyers lie. And I was talking about this a bit earlier. Lawyers are not allowed to lie, because if we do, we can get sanctioned for it quite seriously. So people have to move away from the fact that a solicitor is going to be there to lie for you. We cannot do that. So if a client was to say to me right now, Zainab, you're going to be my lawyer. By the way, I did this, but I refuse to admit it. I can't defend them on that. I can't put that into the defense to say, I did not do that, when my client's admitted that he's done that. But equally, if I don't have their consent to disclose it, I cannot disclose it. So I will either move away from it, not address it, and then just move on and let the judge and whoever's, reading it to take inference from that silence. But there's loads of transferable skills. You've got attention to detail. You've got honesty, you've got firmness. And the reason why I say firmness is, especially with the area of law I do, which is litigation, if you are somebody who cannot deal with confrontation, then you're going to have to build that up. You are going to have that confidence, because more often than not, you get clients who tell you how to do your job, even though you are the one with the legal education. And the amount of times I end up hearing clients say to me, oh, well, I'm not going to send you that because I don't believe it's relevant. And I've just had to turn around and say, well, I'm glad you feel that, and you've got the legal education. The fact that I went to university and got that education, why am I here? But obviously I don't say it in those words. And I've had clients turn around and say, but I don't think it's relevant. I say, but you let me be the judge of that. I might pick up on something that you have not seen. So there's loads of different skills here. And what I will say to students out there is think outside the box. No role outside of law is lower or higher than another role. So if you are a cleaner or a shelf stacker, all of those skills matter, because especially with a shelf stacker, you've got discipline, you've got focus, you've got attention to detail, you've got time management skills. All of those are key, are fundamental skills that you will require in a lawyer. So, get creative, think outside the box, and do not let any role put you down. And certainly for students coming out of Leicester College, in college level, they might not have experience working in a job because of their age. They'll be so young. So when I say get creative and think outside the box, have you organized a birthday party? Have you organized a family trip? You've got skills there that come into play, your organizational skills, time management skills, again, attention to detail, organizing groups, communication, because you've got to make sure everyone gets the correspondence, knows when to turn up and things like that. So think in that way, what is it that you've done that makes you stand out from others? Are you caring for elderly parents? Are you caring for siblings? All of those skills matter. It just depends upon how you sell it effectively, on your CV, on your cover letter. And that's what it comes down to.
That's some really good advice there, actually. I'm sure that's kind of got a lot of people thinking about, actually, hopefully it's inspired people to think, well, they have got transferable skills they've done that could be really useful in that job. I can imagine you do get a lot of challenging clients, and I think some of those things you mentioned there probably really, really good bits of advice. In terms of before the job, you went a little bit into your background about what you were doing before you came into this role. Have you got any advice in terms of work experience? Do you feel like that's something useful for people to try and gain before they go to university, or is it something they can do afterwards?
Okay, my answer is it's going to be a bit of a weird one, yay and a nay situation. The reason being is by the time I graduated university, I had about 18 years worth of work experience, and about 6 of that was in immigration. And when I say immigration and why that's important was because I had the client interviewing skills, I had the drafting skills, I had tribunal experience because I'd been in immigration tribunals representing clients. Not just that, but back in the day when I was only 17, 18 and I was helping friends and family, I'd represented them in small claims, in tenancy disputes and, small claim matters. So by the time I'd even finished university, I had so much experience to take with me. Plus I had a little bit of paralegaling experience. None of that helped me, only because I did not have that 2-1 in an undergraduate's degree. So again, I do need to relay the importance that times are changing. Mentalities of law firm has shifted from that academic route into now more of a what kind of person you're at, what type of experience you've got and things like that. But now I mentor a lot of university students, and I'm also I'm the main committee member for Leicestershire Law Society, and I'm on their education and training sub board. So I've seen a huge shift. And what I would say is, yes, there are firms out there who would prefer you to have work experience, especially in the legal field. But equally, there are law firms out there who don't require you to have either any experience at all or experience in the legal field. It really does depend upon the law firm that you're applying to. So if a student is applying somewhere, I would say thoroughly research that law firm. And when I say thoroughly, I don't mean just Google their website and look at their website. That website only tells you what the firm wants you to see. It doesn't give you the ins and outs. So research them. Have they been in the news for whatever reason? Have they been in different articles, or any of their employees writing blogs or articles for any legal magazines? There's lots out there. Look them up on LinkedIn. Reach out to some of their employees to see if you can gauge a better understanding of what kind of law firm they are. Look them up on Companies House. Companies House, if they're a limited company or an LLP, they'll have the information out there as to what their law firm is like, how many people they've got working for and what their accounts look like and things like that. So do a little bit more deeper research. and you will find out a little bit more about their environment and what kind of person that they're looking for. Because what you have to remember, law firms are investing in you just as much as you are investing in them. So it might be a good fit for you, but it might not be a good fit for them. And equally, it might be a good fit for them, but you might not like them. And there's no shame in that, because you have to be comfortable going to that office and working for them, because we spend more time at work than we do at home. And if you're really unhappy, you're not going to do a good job, and therefore you're not going to be the best version of yourself for you or for your client. So yes, do the research into a law firm, but don't get disheartened if a law firm turns around and says to you, oh, we feel you do not have enough work experience. Move on and see if you can find a law firm who's willing to give you that experience, because there are a lot of firms out there that are willing to give you that experience. But don't just focus on experience in a firm. There are experiences that you can gain working at Citizens Advice Bureau, working as a witness. There's a witness program where you can assist witnesses when they need the hand holding and they need some comfort in courtrooms. Apologies, the name of the program is not coming to my head, but I'm sure they can research it. You can actually work in courtrooms and shadow judges and shadow ushers and clerks and things like that. There are different experiences out there. It all just depends upon what it is that you're looking for. So if you fixated yourself in just a firm, then you're closing a lot of the doors for you. So keep an open mind and see where else you can get that work experience.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a really key point as well from what you've kind of said, is being open and learning from all different kind of angles can really help you in surprising kind of areas. One of the other things we want to talk about a little bit is a bit more about what the job itself is like. So people might be interested to know things that you find most rewarding about the job, anything that might maybe break stereotypes. I know we touched on that earlier about what people expect lawyers' day jobs to be like. Do you want to just give us a bit of an insight and what sort of hours you work and things like that? Do you want to just give us a bit of info about that?
I'm very lucky in all the firms that I've worked for. Excuse me. My hours have been normal, 9 to 5:30, and I get my full 1 hour lunch. I've had a lot of people say to me, how do you do all of your work in those hours? And I would say it's because I'm really, really, really good at organizing and prioritizing, and I love my to-do lists. And I'm one of those people that I will always be there early. I'm not that kind of person that I will rock up to work literally a couple of minutes before 9 o'clock, turn on my PC at 9 o'clock and then go make myself a cup of tea. No. I've got to be there at least 20 minutes to half an hour early. I come in, I chill out, I turn on my PC, I make my tea, and then I'm ready at least 5-10 minutes before. But my to-do list is already done for me because I've done it the day before. I never ever leave my to-do list for the morning. So when I've finished the next day, let's say I finished at 5:30, I will always use a couple of minutes at 5:30 to do my list for the next day. And I always leave a little bit of room for flexibility, because anything urgent can always hit my desk. It's never going to be a very rigid timetable. So I'm always ready to move stuff around. And I think the question on the screen right now is, what is something people do not know about your job that may surprise them? I think at college level, what might surprise them is the fact that there is a little bit of an element of salesperson that comes into this role. And that's the only thing I hate about this role. The fact is, when you're working in a law firm, your law firm will do the marketing for you. But when they bring in inquiries, so when people pick up the telephone or email in, they're known as inquiries, which you then turn into leads. And then when you turn them into leads, meaning, are they viable? Is this going anywhere with a client? Are they then going to instruct you? And that you have to then try and convert that inquiry into a lead where you can then get work from that person, especially in the private sector. And that's the only thing I do not like, because at times I feel like a salesperson, and I'm damn good at that. I'm a bit like my brother. My brother, I call him Del Boy from, I forgot what it's called, Only Fools on Horses.
Yeah.
He can sell hair to a bowman. It's something I've always said to him, and I've literally got the gift of the gab. I can work a room, so I am, touch wood, very good at that. But I absolutely hate that, because sometimes you know you want to be able to help, but you can't take that work on unless they pay your fees. And sometimes you'll get clients who say, I've got no money, but I've got this issue, and you really want to help them, but at the end of the day, you're not there to do their work pro bono, because you can't. Our company's not allowed to, our firm's not allowed to, so you've got to signpost them elsewhere.
Yeah.
Something that the students might not know about, because it was certainly something I didn't know about until I was in my 30s and started my newly qualified role. There's something called billings and there's called targets. So when you're in a law firm, you are set a target, and that's known as fee earning. Fee earning meaning you are bringing money in for that firm, and usually it's 3 or 3.5 times your salary. So say, for example, someone's making £2,000 a month before tax, you then have to bill clients 3.5 times more than that. Now, I'm terrible at maths, so do not quote me on my calculation, but let's just say, for example, your target each month is 10 grand. You have to bill that much each month, meaning you have to do the work and invoice these clients, and your statistics are recorded by the company. And then when you're up for, say, a review, an annual review, a mid-year review, a promotion or whatever, these stats come into play. They look at how many conversions have you done, how well have you hit your targets, how many complaints have you had during this time. So all of these things are just as important. So again, when I mentioned earlier, if you do not like confrontation, you're going to have to build up those confidence skills, because you're going to need them in order to build your caseload, to build those leads, to get instructions from clients. So that's the only part of my job I hate.
That's a really interesting one, though. Yeah, I mean, like, I've never really considered that, but yeah, like you say, you're competing with, well, essentially there's going to be other firms out there that are trying to take on clients, so you've got to kind of get them on board with you, really, haven't you? So absolutely. Yeah, that is quite a surprising part of it that I didn't think about, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I love about my firm, about the job, is that I get to help people. Okay, yes, we're charging them, and that's because we don't do legal aid work, but just knowing that you're able to help someone come out of this situation, and there are going to be days where you don't win for them, but just being there for them throughout their journey and doing something meaningful, and that's something that I do really, really like doing.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, I can imagine it's really rewarding in that sense. Helping people in their personal lives or professional lives is it's a really important thing. I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, because that's gone really quick. But it's been really interesting talking to you. I've always been interested to find out more about how being a lawyer really works. So it's been really, really interesting insight. I think there's a lot to take away there for anyone who's looking into this.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've dropped some information in the comments for anyone who's interested. So if you want to access the courses available at Leicester College, if you want to find out a bit more about the job profile itself, please follow those links and find out a bit more. Thank you so much for joining us today, Zainab. It's been great fun, and I hope everyone's found it useful.
No worries. Thank you so much. Just one thing very quickly. If people want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to add them to my connections, and happy to answer any more questions after this.
Amazing. Thanks so much. That's been brilliant.
No worries.
You have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.